everybody was talking about what they wanted for Christmas. And this one woman said, I've always wanted a pilot's watch. And they were like, honey, we're like 6% of the industry. Nobody is going to make female pilot watches. Sure. And I was like, well, if I figured out how to do it, would you guys help me design it? And they said, yeah, sure, whatever. They want to.
Look at that. That's a great feature.
Yeah. So
fantastic. I mean, honestly, that's a fantastic feature that I wish other watch brands would do.
And they do it on the high-end luxury brands.
Some of them.
But some of them.
Some of them are still behind.
The finish on the titanium, we turned it from polished to sandblasted because our customers were complaining that barracudas were coming up and nipping at their watch.
Because of the shine.
Because of the shine, yeah. Emulating or looking up to other watch brands, I think would be a hubris. Like, I think it would actually do us harm. I do better when I'm listening to my customers than when I'm looking at what other watch brands are doing.
Okay, welcome to Between the Lugs. Today I've got a very special guest with me. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your company, and then from there we'll get into some of these watches, your backstory,
sure,
all of that fun stuff.
My name's Abingdon Mullin. I'm out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I started a watch company about 18 years ago in 2006. I started making pilot watches for women because I was looking for my own pilot watch because I was doing flight training. And at the time, back in 2006, the pilot watches that were out there were massive for somebody that has, 5.5-inch wrists. So I started making smaller flight computer, GMT, stopwatch, more the heavier complications that you would find in more men's styles, but I started designing them with other women. It turned out that women that fly airplanes also scuba dive, they race motorcycles, they're in the military, they're doing so many things that require purpose-built tools. And yet, in all of those industries, they're often settling for the men's smaller versions. So kind of the ethos of the company evolved into building watches for women who do more. And that's what we do today.
Tell me how you got into flying and, what drove you into, wanting to fly airplanes and be this badass that you are now.
I honestly, it was free food. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was in high school and 14 years old. I think it was like the first Wednesday of the month or something, my high school's career center did this thing where they would bring in free food and they'd bring in somebody to talk about what they did for a living. And so I always just knew the first Wednesday of the month or the last Wednesday, whenever it was, I'd go to the career center and I'd get my pizza, I'd get my Subway, and I'd listen to somebody talk. And so I did that one Wednesday, and it was these two pilots that came in from a local flight school, and they said two things to me that really struck. And they said the first thing is, you don't have to join the military to learn how to fly. You could go to universities, you could go to flight schools where they were, and you could learn in a variety of different ways. So I thought, okay, that's actually pretty neat. And then the second thing that they said is, you don't have to do the airlines after you know how to fly. Like, there are all these other jobs. You could fly the Goodyear blimp. You could do relief aid in underdeveloped countries. You could be a professional flight instructor if you like to teach. There's so many types of jobs in aviation. And even more now with the space industry and the drone industry. Aviation is massive.
And so what was your goal after you went through this? What did you want to do on the backside?
I didn't know what kind of flying I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to fly.
Okay.
Yeah. So the airlines, I've done the airlines before. I've flown for a couple airlines, about 6 years. I have about 4,000 hours in 80 different airplanes right now.
Okay.
So I'm very employable from a commercial standpoint, at least in fixed wing, not in helicopter. Not rated in helicopter yet. But the corporate flying or the general aviation flying is where I really shine. Like, I glow when I fly small airplanes.
Okay.
So my favorite job flying planes has been ferrying airplanes, so delivering them, typically across the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of crew is with you when you're ferrying a plane?
It's only 3 people. It's me, myself, and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just by yourself, just out there. That's wild.
Because in small airplanes, if I'm flying it from California to Hawaii, which is the first fuel stop, then they take out all the seats and they put fuel tanks in.
Just to get the plane there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
my
so much
longest single leg was 18 hours, an 18-hour flight in a small 4-place airplane.
So you gave some high points when we started the episode, but now let's back into, so you're in flight training, right?
Yep.
And at some point you decide, hey, I want to watch because I want to commemorate or memorialize me going through this maybe, or you just found that maybe it would be interesting and fun to have a watch considering that you were going to learn to fly.
Yeah, it's a kind of a twofold. My flight instructors during my private pilot training had always told me that you need to have a good headset to protect your ears,
Okay.
noise canceling if you can find,
Yeah.
a good pair of sunglasses to protect your eyes because you're up there in the sun, and then a good watch as a backup to your instruments in the plane. And so I had the headset, had the sunnies, but I didn't have the watch. And oftentimes, as we all know in the watch world, a watch can commemorate a moment in time, or something significant that's happened, if you're first born or a job promotion or something like that. And so I thought, well, this was a good opportunity for me I just finished my private, I'm going into my instrument, I'm officially a pilot in the FAA database.
That's great.
Let me find something that I can wear for the rest of my flight training. And the fact that I never worn a watch before, but all my flight instructors had these really cool pilot watches, and they did use the whiz wheel when we were flying. I was like, okay, I got to get one. And then I looked, and there was nothing. So nothing that fit me.
Yeah. So
lots of pilot watches, but
yeah. So what did you find? Everything was just too big. You were looking specifically for a pilot's watch.
I was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything is, gosh, I don't know, what's the smallest? 44 millimeters maybe in general, but everything is pretty big.
Pretty big.
46, 48, I would think.
And then the question becomes, well, what were you looking in a pilot's watch? Like what functions? So I wanted either a GMT because all of my weather reports were done in Zulu time.
Okay.
UTC was important for me, so having that dual time function is great. I'm going into my instrument training. A lot of it is timed points. So when you have the highways in the sky, it's 37 seconds to the next waypoint, and then it's 48 seconds to that waypoint after that you have to kind of maneuver around. So if you didn't have GPS just telling you that star, you're following the magenta line as we do on our maps on our car and stuff like that. If you didn't have that and you were navigating by what's called VOR, then it was all timed points. So I needed possibly a stopwatch. And then I was looking truly, and it's so funny because people really get sticky about this one, but the flight computer. So the E6P, the calculator around the bezel.
Yeah.
I use it. I
do you
actually do use it. And
I love that.
know how to use it.
It's one of my favorite functions. I don't know how to use it very well, but
I've got videos.
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated with the function. And I have a Oris Big Crown, and the whole reason that I bought it was this flight watch, which I believe it's a 46. But it's because of that calculator function, the slide rule.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me.
On the Abingdon Co YouTube channel, I dictate a whole bunch of videos on how to use.
If anybody's interested in knowing how to use that function,
better, go check them out.
Go check that video out.
Definitely.
Right?
I have flight instructors email me from time to time and say, I used your videos to help train my pilots, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. So the best function I honestly use it for is currency conversion, which isn't even
right.
It's not even a flight thing.
But you can use it to convert.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I just got back from Hong Kong 2 weeks ago, and I just had it dialed in when I landed, and I just used it the whole time. So it was great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're out. You're looking for a watch. They're all too big.
Totally.
And then what happens at that point? You're like, I'm just not going to find myself a watch? Is that kind of, you just chalked it up to,
Yeah. I got my rating in end of September, early October, so that's about the time I was looking for it. Didn't find anything. I reached out to a company called Chase Juror. They were just in Beverly Hills, and I was learning how to fly in Santa Monica, so just over the hill. And I asked them, hey, would you guys build me a custom watch? And they gave me some insane 5-figure price to do it. And so I was like, okay, well, that's a lot of flight training I could be paying for. So thanks, but no thanks. And then it wasn't until Christmas I was at a dinner with a bunch of female pilots. They're called the 99s, and I'm a member of this organization. And it's an organization that was started back in the early 1900s by Amelia Earhart and 98 other women. So that's how they call themselves, the 99s. And so we were just having our Christmas dinner, and everybody was talking about what they wanted for Christmas. And this one woman said, I've always wanted a pilot's watch. They'll just never make anything for women. And I was like, that's so weird. I'm 21, right? You ladies have been around the block a couple times. Like, what's the deal? I was looking a few months ago, and nothing was out there. And they were like, honey, we're like 6% of the industry. Nobody is going to make female pilot watches. Sure. And I was like, well, if I figured out how to do it, would you guys help me design it? And they said, yeah, sure, whatever. And so I was like, okay. So I set a deadline for my birthday the following year, November 3rd, 2007, 11 months.
They didn't know who they said yeah, sure to.
Yeah, they had no idea.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And so that was kind of the aha moment where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like I did door-to-door sales in college to help finance my flight training. I did, like, I was that kid that had to sell more candy bars than the rest of my soccer team to pay for the uniforms. Like, I was just that Girl Scout,
Yeah.
And so I just did it.
How do you figure out how to get from that point
from never wearing a watch to starting a watch company?
Never wearing a watch.
Yeah.
That conversation into having your first watch.
So Google was my friend. Yeah. My first Google search was where are the best watches from? And of course, Switzerland comes up.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, can I make a watch in America? Kind of. Not really. This was 2006, so there wasn't a lot of that going on. And then who manufactures the best watches? So all these, you're R&Ding, you're researching, and you're trying to figure out, how am I going to tackle this elephant? And I ended up finding manufacturers through Alibaba, and I work with the same guys I worked with 18 years ago. So
Wow.
Now I have suppliers in like the 3 main continents that you're going to find watch product in, and that's everything from like the point of sale display that I have these watches on display here, to the watch box, to the straps, the cases, the movements. I'm using Hadley Roma for straps, leather straps out of Florida. I work with FTS out of Phoenix to make American movements in some of my watches, and the Jane I'm wearing here. I use Rhonda from Switzerland, but I go into Hong Kong to meet them at their offices. That's where I was 2 weeks ago, meeting a Swiss company in Hong Kong.
Okay.
And so there's the beautiful thing, I think, about building a watch is it comes from all parts of the world, and they all come together to make a precision-focused instrument.
Yes.
And I think that's fascinating. I love that.
What was the first watch that you ended up kind of creating?
This one.
This watch here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I still wear the original prototype, and this is the Jackie. This is my daily. So this watch here is 18 years old. But if you look at that bracelet, it's kind of that Rolex oyster. Yeah. But if you look at the Jackie now, I've got this Chevron strap. So a couple things. The crown for the flight computer was at the 8 o'clock. Now it's in the center.
Yeah, I see that.
And then the movement is going to change because Miyota does not make the FS20 movement anymore. So I am going to be using a different movement. The strap, obviously, the bracelet is very different.
Yes.
I wanted to have a quick release strap on all of the watches. So if
Okay.
you slide that off the pillow, that metal bracelet is quick release. It's a 2-prong. Because, again, people are wearing that watch riding their bike. They want
Look
to.
at that. That's a great feature.
Yeah. So,
Fantastic. I mean, honestly, that's a fantastic feature that I
Yeah.
wish other watch brands would do.
And they do it on the high-end luxury brands. But
Some of them.
some of them,
Some of them are still behind.
my customers, we call them crew members, they are so versatile in the things that they do that they're going to want a silicone strap on if they're doing something in the
Yeah.
water. They're going to, and everything here has a sapphire crystal. Everything has a minimum water resistance of 50 meters, 165 feet. So
it's a versatile watch
they're intended for
to be used.
yeah.
Yeah, you can take them hiking. You don't have to worry about them getting wet. That's so the strap. Did you design the strap, or
I
was
did.
this a design that you found?
No, that's a custom design. So
That's very
I
cool.
love the slanted bracelet that Breitling has.
Yeah.
That you can like notice it from afar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted people to wear an Abingdon watch where you could see it from across the room and know that that's an Abingdon watch. And so the Chevron was designed because in aviation, Chevron markings on the runways. In racing cars, Chevron markings when you take turns.
Yeah.
In maritime, chevrons are used everywhere. In the military, chevrons are often the insignia on your dress, all your stuff here. I'm not military, so I don't really know the term, but on your sleeve, like the patches and things.
Yeah.
So there's so many meanings behind chevrons for our crew members that's why I designed the chevron into the strap.
So you have the prototype.
Mm-hmm.
This is essentially the first watch that you came out with.
Mm-hmm.
How was it received?
It was like you guys with your channel. Like after month 3, we were like, oh my gosh, this is a thing. And
this is happening.
This is happening. Yeah. And a couple articles came out in the aviation industry about it.
Okay.
I got my first customer even before I launched the brand. Somebody wrote me a $400 check for a watch, not even knowing what it was going to look like.
Okay.
And so that's when I thought, like, okay, maybe this might be something. But then after the first few months, because I launched in November, and I want to say it was like February that I got a call from Women in Aviation. It's a large organization, nonprofit. And they said, hey, we have a conference in San Diego. Would you like to have a booth? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I hauled one of those huge tabletop printers to print receipts down to this booth, and I set it up like at my booth, and we like went and bought flowers at the local florist to like have on our table with the I didn't even have anything that I could display the watches in, so we just had like the watch boxes.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you want that one? Okay, that one is yours. Like that's how we did our first show.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of went gangbusters in the aviation world. Mm-hmm. So I would kind of sell here and sell there, and I'd move a couple a week or something like that. Like it wasn't like a big thing. I wasn't going all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up on Shark Tank.
You've been on Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so
Yeah.
cool. I
Season 6.
did not know this.
Season 6.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a few years later. And after that, is
that the moment when it blew up, once it aired?
Yes, because my pitch was, I've conquered the skies, I want to conquer the sea, and I want to do a dive watch. Help me get into this new market. Because, again, 6% of the industry is female in aviation. That's not a good market. And so...
What did the sharks say when you presented?
So Mark Cuban loved the fact that I did door-to-door sales, because I guess he had done that as well in his youth, and he was like, girl, you got it. Like, you've already done, at this point I did like $500,000 in sales, and he's like, you don't need us. He's like, I couldn't be your investor because it's not my space, but you're doing great. Just keep going. Damon John was the guy that I really wanted, because he just understands branding and fashion, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he was not into it. And then Kevin O'Leary, he loved just my entrepreneurial spirit. He got it right away. But and the funny thing is, he's into watches. He's a big watch guy.
Huge.
And so he's the only one who made the offer.
He did.
He did make an offer.
One of those wild.
It was a ridiculous offer.
Yeah.
He said, "Here's what here's what I'm offering."
Something in perpetuity, I'm sure.
He said, No, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that good. He said, "I'm going to send my jet out to Vegas, and we're going to pick you up and all of your inventory, because watches don't take up a lot of space. We're going to come out to my brownstone, and we're going to set everything on fire over a nice bottle of wine, and then we're going to come up with a new idea." I was like, "I've got a counter for you. Send the jet. Come with. I'll take you up in one of my planes. We'll take the doors off because it's absolutely beautiful in Vegas. I only have one parachute, though, and I need to wear that because I'm the pilot. But don't worry, you'll be fine."
That's what you told him?
Yeah. And he was like, no. So So he said no. And then Lori was the only woman. I really was hoping for Barbara too. I really like her. But Lori was there, and she's awesome. But her businesses that she invests in are the ones that are, I mean, she comes from the QVC HSN world. So it's got to be a product that the kids to the grandmas use. It wasn't her. It was too niche for her.
Right. Not the right product for her. She's very much like a flash in the pan type of products, I guess. You know, things that are like, that are just quick and easy movers. Watches are not easy movers.
No. And she so it just wasn't the right fit. But she thought the watches were beautiful, and she's like, this is like kind of what Mark was saying. Let's just keep going. And Robert Hershevek at the end, he, in the similar way that Mark said, I'm just not in this space. He's like, I've got 3 girls, because he's got his daughters, and he's like, I love the brand. Like, I just love how you're empowering women to do whatever they want. And he said, but I'm not your investor. I wouldn't know what to do with you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So
I never got a deal.
That was the moment, I guess, that really catapulted you into deciding that you were going to do this maybe more full-time?
Definitely. And also out of the aviation world into the dive world. So, because that was my whole thing, was I wanted to start making dive watches and enter the dive world, because in actual numbers in the United States, there's roughly, I think it was like 600,000 female pilots in the U.S. So that's it.
Okay.
That's not a market.
But the dive industry is much larger.
The educated guess is there's somewhere around 20 million female divers, from open water to dive master and dive instructor, and then and so that's a huge amount compared to, it's 20 times more, because there's only roughly around 1 million worldwide female pilots.
Yeah. Did the dive watch take off?
It did, yeah. We did a Kickstarter. We raised $66,000 on Kickstarter for the dive watch. That was our very first one. It's the only watch I don't have. Well, there's a few watches I don't have on this tray, but the Marina dive watch is our first one. This here is a Nadia, and that is our second dive watch. It's a 35 millimeter, 200 meter water resistant Seiko movement in here, and they were blown away that this will go down 200 meters, which is really cool. But Marina was the first. It did very, very well. It's titanium. It's got a Miyota 8215 in it, and it's also got a world timer on it. It's great. A Blog to Watch did a review of it just a little bit ago, because we redid the finish on the titanium. We turned it from polished to sandblasted because our customers were complaining that barracudas were coming up and nipping at their watch.
Because of the shine.
Because of the shine, yeah. So we sandblasted the titanium, made it more of a brushed feel. Yeah. And then, after the dive, the intro to the dive world, then we started doing automotive and tactical.
This watch here, what is this watch compared to what is?
So this is Jane. So automatic quartz. This is an FTS movement, so the American movement.
Yep.
But remember, we were talking about this before we started recording. So this is a 3-hand day date, and this is a 3-hand day date in the same position, the day date.
Yeah.
So it's a Seiko movement and it's an American movement. So they had a very similar profile. I could fit it in a 35 millimeter case with a diver's bezel around the outside. But I have a very reliable Seiko movement in there. So diving, we don't open it, no battery changes. The tactical Jane, they want to have high precision. They don't want it to run slow. They don't want to have to wind it, none of that kind of stuff when they're out in the field. So this one is the quartz version. So, yeah.
This is I love the material.
I love the look of this.
And the dial, this kind of like a chocolatey sunburst dial, is really pretty.
Yeah, and we've been haven't formally gone into the equestrian world, but those that wear this are often in the equine industries. So
really,
yeah.
Are you familiar? Do you follow any other watch brands? Are there some smaller watch houses or brands that you look up to or you draw inspiration from?
So if you had asked me this question about 2022, I would have had a very different answer. I did my first watch show in 2022, 15 years after I had my brand established.
Wow.
And it was wind up.
Yeah,
And
it's a great show.
we've always gone to boat shows, air shows, dive shows, car shows. Like, that's always been our event calendar.
Yeah.
It's never been a watch show. And right now, it's 3 years later, and I go to watch events, but they're not our big events. So emulating or looking up to other watch brands, I think would be a hubris. Like, I think it would actually do us harm. Working with the women astronauts that we're working with right now, working with some of the women that are just out there breaking barriers, winning gold medals. Like, I went to the Emmys last fall, and I met Ilona Mayer, the rugby player, and I mean, just even the 5-minute conversation with her, and just being inspired to do more into sports. And of course, right now in Las Vegas, the women's NBA, our Las Vegas Aces are 2-time champions, and they killed it. They're doing amazing. The season just started, and so I do better when I'm listening to my customers than when I'm looking at what other watch brands are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
And I like that because of how you started. I think that you have a lot of story to tell around this watch company, but just a bigger story to tell using this a little bit as your foundation for how that translates into other aspects, other business aspects, other life aspects. So
Totally. Yeah, we've had several crew members that have their reviews on our websites or they've told us through social media or even just written us an email. And we have, I know of 2 right off the bat that went through breast cancer treatment and wore their watch every day during chemo as like just a reminder that I'm a part of a group of strong women. I can get through this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about a watch because, we wear clothes, we wear shoes, we have accessories, belts, purses, whatever we have, and they change on the daily. But the watch, like your go-to daily watch, is your best friend because it is with you all the time.
it is with you.
Yeah.
And it in a world that we are obsessed with temporary and an iPhone we replace every year. The clothes, everything is fast fashion now, and we'll wear something for one season, and then we hopefully we give it to Goodwill, and then we go buy some more. But a watch is so permanent.
Yeah.
That's the reason that I'm drawn to collecting watches and in the space, of watches.
Can I tell you a crazy story?
Yeah.
So one of my crew members, her name is Buff Burkell, Laurel Buff Burkell, and she is a retired colonel in the Air Force. And she got in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. She was airlifted to Germany. And for about a year, she was part of the Halo team where they have the rods that hold your head up and the 4 screws in your skull. She had to relearn basically everything, and she's like one of the most active,
total badass.
Total badass.
Yeah.
And when she woke up in the hospital, her first post, 2 people, like she had friends, family posting for her, like Buff's okay, she survived. 2 people survived out of the helicopter of 8. Oh. So she was one of the 2. And when her first post came on, she tagged me, which was weird. And she said, I survived and so did my watch. And I was like, what? And at the time, I wasn't even that close of a friend with her. We became very close afterwards. But she had lost her dog tags. And she still had her watch on her. And it was the Marina dive watch.
Yeah.
And I reached out and I said, hey, I'm so glad you're okay. And I know you have a long road to recovery and everything, but like, amazing. I'm just so happy you're okay. 3 years later, she approaches me at the Women in Aviation conference. I forget where it was being held, probably Orlando. And she says, Abingdon, I'm going to retire from the Air Force this year. 30 years, plus years. She had just dedicated her entire life. And I said, amazing. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. She said, I want you at my retirement ceremony. And I was like, I've never been to a military retirement. I would love to see all the pomp and circumstance. I'm there.
Yeah.
Of course, when a colonel in the Air Force tells you to do anything, you're going to say, yes, ma'am.
For sure.
And so she said, well, you gotta know where it's going to be. And I was like, okay, where? And she's like, it's going to be at the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. And you're going to need to train now because we leave in October. And I was like, what? Wild. So I started training, and I joined her with 13 other people.
I was going to say, this had to be a small group.
At the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, where she did her retirement ceremony. And it ended up there were 3 crew members there out of the 13. I was only one of 2 civilian. Everybody else was military.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it was insane.
How special did it feel?
One of the best moments of my life.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And what do you think was so special about her posting that? What was the significance of that watch surviving?
It's part of her now. I mean, it's funny because a few years ago, maybe 2021, so she'd had her watch for well over 10 years, or she's had it now for over 10 years, but at the time, she just never took it off. And she's even, I don't know if it's a joke or if she's been serious about this, but she did tell me she's going to revise her will to will the watch back to me.
Okay.
So I mean, Buff and I, we're like, we're thick as thieves now.
Yeah, there's special connection.
And how could you ever have that? Like if I didn't have this watch company, those kinds of stories, those kinds of relationships.
No, you wouldn't.
Very rare. Very
rich relationships come out of in this crazy way in collecting watches, because there's this one thing that so many people don't get that you get, and when I know that you get this one thing that everybody else doesn't get, we connect on this deeper level, and then we get to find out all this cool and interesting stuff about each other, and watches are great in that way.
It's a great gateway drug to people.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I don't think I've ever said that. I might steal that. That is a great.
You can have
it's
it.
a
Can't steal it
gateway
because I gave it.
Drug to people. I know that we are all on limited time. Tell our audience a little bit. We'll wrap it up with how do they find these amazing watches that you have been making for the last 18 years?
Well, definitely the website, www.abingdonco.com. We sell through Macy's, so definitely go pick them up at Macy's.
Okay.
If they don't have the style in the store, you can order it online. They'll ship it right to the local store close to you.
So you can order any style on the Macy's website, and then they'll ship it.
Yep.
Okay.
And then if you are military, active or retired, use your discount on shopmyexchange.com. So we sell through all the military exchanges.
Okay, great.
Also, if you work for a large company and you have one of those like corporate catalogs where you've done 5 years of service, or you've hit a sales benchmark, or whatever you've done to win one of those awards that they give you, we are in 5,000 corporate catalogs of just a variety of different companies. So there's that. You can get an Abingdon watch that way too, and your company gifts it to you, which is even better.
Yeah.
But then you can also find us on social media. You can find us on our YouTube channel that I mentioned, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, all of those. And then my favorite is we're going to be opening up a showroom, our flagship location in downtown Vegas in the fall of this year.
It's going to be so much fun.
You have to come out to Vegas.
If I have an invite, I will come.
You have an invite.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I will be there.
Yes, you 100%. And your brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I may or may not be introducing a limited, you can only get it that week, watch.
I meant to ask that before we started recording, whether or not you were going to do like a boutique-only limited kind of something for either the event and or maybe the space.
Definitely for the event. We've done limited runs before. During the first year of Formula One in Las Vegas, we did a 40-piece only offered at Neiman Marcus race watch. So we definitely have done limited pieces, and we will be doing one this fall for the opening.
Excellent. Thank you for sitting down completely ad hoc. Like
I know, we met like an hour ago.
Yeah, we were just going to meet and introduce each other and talk watches, and then it was like, hey, do you want to record a podcast?
And I was here for an event, so I already had all this stuff. Like, I don't just carry this around with me all the
time. Well, I wouldn't blame you if you did, to be honest. But yeah, obviously for this event, you had these watches here, which worked out perfect.
Yeah, this worked out great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. And go check out Abingdon Watch Company. Is that right? Watch Company? What is it?
AbingdonCo.com.
AbingdonCo.com. So go check out AbingdonCo.com. I'll have a link in the description to the website, to all of your social. So please go follow, like, support, and buy. Until next time, we'll see you.